Today we're going to talk about the Lord's sidearm, the right arm of freedom, the 1911, on today's episode of Refshaw Outdoors. Howdy folks, and welcome back to Refshaw Outdoors. And today we're talking about the Lord's sidearm, the 1911. So, there's a lot of people know about 1911s. Obviously they came out in 45 ACP originally. That's kind of what's a lot of people call it the Lord's caliber. They are starting to lose some popularity against, polymer pistols like a Glock. They generally don't have as high of capacity, especially with 45. But there are some that do, such as, let's see, Para Ordnance is a double stack. Kind of an interesting thing about the Para Ordnance double stack. I had a moose client that showed up hunting camp once. He was not that old, 27 or something, but he had a 45 ACP, a Para Ordnance double stacked 45. Obviously he was shooting buffalo boar hardcast. Never had to use it, but it's always something that you want to keep in mind when you're in the backcountry. The vast majority of Alaskan guides anywhere it seems like, have gone to the Glock 20 and 10 millimeter. Capacity wise, you're doing really great, but when it comes to shootability, the 1911 is still considered a much more user-friendly platform, or as far as shootability goes. The Glocks has a pretty wide grip. Once you get used to it, it's not so bad, but the first time you pick up a Glock, you're going to think, if you're more of a traditional shooter, you're going to notice how wide they are. Kind of a odd grip angle compared to the 1911, but you'll get used to it. One thing about the 1911s, let's see, so there's a little more going on with them. They've got a grip safety, and they've got a mechanical safety, which when the hammer's down, the thumb safety, you can't move it. But you go ahead, you pop your magazine in, rack around. Now your hammer is cocked. Flick the thumb safety up. This is what's known as condition 1. And this is how the 1911 was designed to be carried, with the hammer cocked, with a round in the chamber. Cocked and locked, condition 1. And, there's nothing. You've got two safeties keeping that hammer back. You've got the grip safety, and you've got the thumb safety. So that is what keeps that safe. But I'll talk a little bit about, we've got quite the array of 1911s here. And we'll just start out kind of what the standard or basic, what I call the government model, 5-inch barrel. The grip is a full grip, so even for me with big hands, I can get all my fingers around it. Then there's subcompacts like this Springfield Ultra Compact. There is a barrel length in between this. This is a 3-inch. It could be called an officer's model or a compact, which this is compact. There's a barrel in between this called the Commander. That I think is 4 inches, but I could be wrong in that. This is a neat little pistol to carry. If you wanted to be discreet, this would definitely be something nice, because what everybody says, you know, whenever anyone goes from, say, a Glock or a Springfield XDM, Smith & Wesson, M&P, polymer striker fired back to a classic steel and 1911, is how narrow they are and how comfortable compared to, say, the Glock that they are to carry concealed. They're a lot slimmer, even in 45. Obviously, magazine capacity is not the same, but with 45, you're talking that's a big hole. It's almost half an inch in diameter. But anyway, like this little guy, it's not the most comfortable for me because I can just barely get my pinky on there, and it is at the bottom of my palm. But when you do need something like that, it's good to, or it doesn't really matter so much about where it bites your palm. And then we'll kind of move on. We've kind of gone past the government model, the standard. And then there's what they call the long slide, 6-inch barrel. This is a Remington 1911 R1 Hunter model, they call it. This would be a real sweet pistol if you, 10 millimeter, I don't know if I said that, but this would be a real sweet pistol for handgun hunting. If, you know, hunting black bears over bait. I do know a guy up in Alaska who has taken caribou with handguns and without, so, you know, obviously he had to stalk pretty close. He didn't have bait, but, you know, the long slide 1911s are definitely something. If you wanted to hunt with them, they would be a much, I don't want to say better, but your odds would increase with the longer sight radius, the distance between the rear and front sight. So that is something. A little bit heavier. I don't know if it's something I'd necessarily want to carry in the backcountry as my sidearm, but like this Dan Wesson here, again 10 millimeter, really nice fiber optic front, and it's just kind of got, it's a Trijicon rear. I don't think those are fiber optic, but this is kind of a lighter pistol for, considering it's a 6-inch barrel, a long slide, as they would call it. And then if you want to, where was that one? Right here. You know, as far as carrying in the backcountry for a sidearm, the Para-Ordnance double stack, for someone with bigger hands that's more used to shooting a Glock with a wide grip, you definitely notice when you pick up the Para, the wider grip. But if you've got bigger hands, it's a little bit more of a filling grip, especially if you're used to shooting something like a Glock, which has a wide grip. And now the Glock 20, compared to like the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, is a much blockier, wider grip. I can't exactly remember what the grip angle is, but it's more what some people call the European style. It is different grip angle than the 1911. I wanted to go into weight. So when we're talking about another big reason that the polymer pistols have become so popular as bear backup is because of their lightweight. Now, when you have a full magazine loaded with 15 rounds of 10 millimeter, you definitely notice the difference in weight from going from empty to putting a magazine in. So that is one reason a lot of guys have gone to that. The 45 ACP has never really been considered a bear pistol. Although now a lot of guys with the more prevalence in hard cast ammunition, it's becoming more popular. You can find examples of a 45 ACP from a 1911 being used successfully to stop a bear attack. So that's something that I wouldn't be too afraid to carry it, although it really comes down to personal preference, I guess, when it comes to 45 versus 10 millimeter. 45 is going to be moving a lot slower. With plus P ammunition, it's about 23,000 psi. Standard ammunition is 21,000. Oh, excuse me. Even with plus P, like, let's see, yeah, this is Hornady 230 grain XCP, so that's more of, it's not a bear stopping bullet, a hollow point. But this is plus P, that's 230 grain going, what do they got it advertised at 950 feet a second. This is 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter, you know, they got this is 180 grain, 1275. That's, you know, moving quite a bit faster. So that's something that you know, you could think about when it comes to a bear pistol. Stopping a charge isn't necessarily velocity. I tend to lean more towards the Taylor knockout theory of a heavier, wider bullet. Probably going slower is going to be just as, if not more effective than a smaller, faster bullet from the 10 millimeter. And if you look, it's going to be too hard to see from here, but if you take a 45 ACP and compare it to a 10 millimeter, and you look at them from the side, you can tell the 45 is bigger, but it doesn't look like, wow, I'm going to gain a whole lot until you look at them from the top. Going from a .40 or 10 millimeter to .45 is a huge jump when you look at it from the top. That's going to be a much bigger hole. And with hard cast ammunition, now the Hornady Dangerous Game Handgun DGH backcountry defense, I don't even know if that's really hard cast. It's jacketed, but I've been pleasantly surprised with the penetration potential of that bullet. As far as that goes. Anyway, I'm going to back up a little bit to talking more about the 10 millimeter versus the 45 ACP. They both kind of came about for similar reasons. The 45 ACP came about after the Philippine insurrection, 1901 or 2, somewhere around there. The Army was using 38 long Colts, I believe, and they were going up against these tribesmen that were on some kind of stimulant drug, and they could not stop. The 38 long Colt was just like shooting blanks. It was not getting the job done. So the Army wanted to go back to the 45 caliber single action Army, and they wanted, and automatic pistols were starting to come out at the time, so they wanted, I can see this magazine isn't locked in, they wanted something with that power level, but the Army wasn't using 45 Colt. If we back all the way up to 1875, I think, when the Schofield, Smith & Wesson Schofield came out, the 45 Schofield was shorter than 45 Colt. So the Army had 2 different 45 caliber pistols that shot different length cartridges. And you can imagine the logistical nightmare that created. And the 45 Colt was longer, and you might have a cavalry regiment stationed somewhere in the Dakotas or Montana with Schofield pistols, 6 guns, and they get their ammo shipment and it's 45 Colt. It doesn't fit. Now, if you had another regiment that has single action armies, they get issued their ammo, they get 45 Schofield ammunition. That'll work, it's shorter, it fit fine. So what the Army ended up adopting, what they called the 45 ball or something like that, was actually 45 Schofield shooting a 230 grain bullet at, I don't even know what the powder charge was. The 45 Colt started with a 255 grain bullet and 40 grains of black powder, and I think they backed that off. Had a little bit too much recoil, I guess, is one of the theories I've heard. So now we fast forward to when they are developing the 45 ACP. They wanted that type of performance. So the 230 grain bullet in the 45 ACP is kind of what they stuck with. And they wanted a pistol, again, that was a lot more powerful than the 38 long Colts that they had. I've heard stories that they went to Chicago to a slaughterhouse and were shooting into cow carcasses that were hanging up. So the 45 could, I've heard it called an anti-cow projectile. Now if we move on to the 10 millimeter, it kind of came about for the same reason. 85, 86, maybe it was before that. FBI shootout in Miami, Florida. FBI had 9 millimeters, 9mm Parabellum, Luger, whatever. I don't know what they were going up against, but I'm assuming the perps in that situation were on some stimulant drug, which can make people quite, I don't want to say bulletproof, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So, I forget the guy's name. I don't think it was Jeff Cooper, but it was, the FBI wanted something more. They wanted capacity and more power. So the guy, again, I forget his name. It might have been Jeff Cooper, might not have been, but they came up with the 10mm auto. And the first pistol, I believe, that was chambered in was, it was a European pistol, I think, the Bren 10. And shortly after, Colt came out with a 1911, with standard government well, the government model would be 45, but 5-inch barrel, they called it the Delta Elite. Now the 10 millimeter is quite a stopper. Sammy does not list a plus P for 10 millimeter, but to load a full power 10 millimeter is 37,500 psi. So that's quite a bit more working pressure than even plus P 45 ACP, which is one of the reasons you get a lot higher velocity. Now, they used, I don't know how long the FBI used the 10 millimeter, but it was too powerful for them. They didn't like how hard it kicked. And then eventually when better bullets and plus P 9mm came out, they actually went back to the 9mm, which I guess, I don't know, slow to get the message, I guess. Tough learners, but whatever. Now, a lot of the 10 millimeter you buy today at the store is loaded down. It's not 37,000 psi. It's not full power because it is a hard kicking for a semi-auto. It has a lot of recoil. Some people don't like full power 10 millimeter. A lot of the stuff you buy, your practice ammo, is actually loaded down to more like 40 Smith & Wesson pressure and ballistics, that's where the 40 Smith & Wesson came from. It's more or less a 10 millimeter short, trying to get not quite as much recoil. But anyway, I know I've been getting off on tangents, and I need to start writing scripts, but bear with me today. But I guess I could go ahead and take a few shots with some 1911s here, and we'll see at 20 yards how much more accurate and if I can shoot better with them than with the Glock 10 millimeter. So I will be right back. All right, so now we're kind of set up. I'm gonna take a couple shots with the G20 Glock 10 millimeter. We're loaded up. These are 180 grain Hornady XTPs. I was gonna try to find some backcountry defense for 45 to test, because I've got backcountry defense for 10 millimeter, but I couldn't find any for 45 ACP. So, but I'm just gonna show how the 1911 kind of stacks up as far as accuracy goes. I never hit the plate one time on there. So next up, we're gonna go with the Dan Wesson long slide. Maybe I should have loaded these magazines off camera, which I'll probably do. All right, now we're loaded up. So we're gonna go with the Dan Wesson Bruin. This would be a pretty, for how lightweight it is, long barrel, long sight radius, this would be a nice pistol to carry in the backcountry as far as fairly lightweight. You know, the slim, just for how slim the 1911s are compared to polymer, this is a pretty nice pistol. We'll see if I can hit the ringer with this. It's moving. I hit it. Oh, the darn thing went sideways on me. I'm gonna try to fix that. All right, now got that fixed. I got one or two left. Left in condition one. So now I can use the thumb safety. she's empty. So, did pretty well with that one. Better, I think I hit it twice. I never hit it with the Glock. Now moving on to the Remington 1911 R1 long slide. Oh. And I didn't quite get a full lock up there. Huh. Didn't there either. So this one probably needs to be cleaned. Pick up those cartridges. I did hit it though. All right, now we'll move into the heavy hitter. Springfield Armory 1911 A1 stainless steel. This would be something a lot of guys would like in wet conditions like Alaska. Now we're talking a big heavy hitter. I think I was hitting the legs on that thing out there. So that was kind of nice. Now moving on to the Para Ordnance double stack. Again, just 5. There we did. And that ringing target is, ouch. Looks like I knocked it sideways again. So I'll go fix it. All right, so yeah, I was hitting the legs on that thing. I should have had that target, I guess, more in the middle of it, but it's fine. I kind of had to adjust aim a little bit on some of those, but I'm doing better with the 1911s than the Glock, and I've shot the Glock a lot more. But now we're moving on to the subcompact. This is a Springfield also. Just another 5, and we'll see how this does. I don't think I hit it a single time, but that is a much smaller gun. So anyway, I'm gonna load up some magazines and we'll try a few more shots here. All right, so I just kind of want to shoot up these boxes of ammo. So we're gonna go with the Dan Wesson Bruin again. I think I got 7 rounds of 10 millimeter here. This is 20 yards, an 8-inch steel target. Just goes to show how difficult it actually is shooting a pistol at 20 yards. Boy, that 10 millimeter hits that steel target hard. This would be a nice pistol to carry for, you know, a backcountry bear defense pistol. I got one more 1911 45 to shoot, but I want to get that target nice, so I'm going to go fix it. All right, last one is the Kimber. These Kimber is, when you're talking 1911s, a lot of people make them, but Kimber is more your high end. This is Tactical Custom HD2. The Kimbers are a little more put together, nice. Kimber is kind of known for that, especially their rifles, their handguns. This is a full-size government model, 5-inch barrel. The sights, I guess, could leave a little bit to be desired, but Let's see how she does. Yeah, I never hit it with that one. So, as you can see, oh boy. But I did do a lot better with the 1911s than the Glock as far as hitting the target at 20 yards. So that is where, in my estimation, if a guy wants to carry an autoloader in the backcountry for bear protection, a 1911 in 45 ACP, shooting hard cast ammunition from buffalo boar, Underwood. Tim Sunnels will hate me for saying that, but grizzly cartridge I've picked up before in Healy, or a 1911 such as the Dan Wesson Bruin. The Dan Wesson does make a government model size 5-inch barrel. Would be a great option too. But I think the 1911s are a much easier pistol to shoot. I think they are going to be more accurate for your average shooter than, say, a Glock. So that's going to be today's video. It got long. If you stayed and watched the whole thing, I sure appreciate that. If you want to go ahead, I love reading the comments, even some of the nastier ones. I kind of get a chuckle out of them. So, but if you want to hit like, subscribe, I sure would appreciate that. Help my channel grow a little bit. But that's what I got for today. My name is Pete Refshaw with Refshaw Outdoors. Keep your powder dry.